Was the Battle of Thermopylae a made-up battle? Was Alexander the Great a made-up ruler? No. So when we were reading all about ancient Greece, was that fiction too?
Literacy is the product of two processes. Word recognition, that's what we think of as phonics, and language comprehension, which is the vocabulary, grammar, and structure, as well as the contextual knowledge. So Core Knowledge Language Arts, or CKLA, is our language comprehension program. It supports students in their reading, writing, listening, and speaking comprehension. And it's a really integral part of APS's mission to provide equitable access and outcomes for all students.
It's kind of encompassing all of it at once. There's a lot of speaking and listening that is going on a daily basis. There's a lot of vocabulary acquisition, and for what we're trying to do, which is build their language comprehension, it's doing a really great job because it's making them excited about the content that they're learning, and it's specifically introducing vocabulary that they might not come across. Do you guys tend to anything?
I tend to write poetry and Shiva.
I think the CKLA is doing a really good job of integrating high-interest topics with kind of robust vocabulary that they will encounter year after year. The way that they're picking up the vocabulary this year is different. They know what subduction is, and they can show me what it means. They know the theory of Pangea. It's pretty cool. I've had the opportunity to see CKLA in other grades as well, in younger grades, which was exciting to me because I can see how the units will really complement each other as they go through the grades.
Then I want you to carefully decide which table makes the most sense for your pictures. So we actually have finished up our second unit about the 5 senses. So we're kind of reviewing this week. And so we're talking about all 5 of the senses this week. And so we did a little hands-on activity of the sorting, and now they're writing about what their favorite sense is and what they like to do with that sense. You have a piece of paper on the front if you want to give me a very detailed picture. I really like how it's nice and structured, which for kindergartners is very nice to have something very structured, but it's still very flexible. I can kind of pull the things that I need from each day. There are structured scaffolds built right in for my students that are struggling or my students that are ready for a challenge, especially if they have background knowledge about things like the 5 senses. So far it's been easy to adapt to the kindergartners.
One thing we know from the science of learning is that knowledge is key to comprehension. CKLA is very intentional in the spiraling of knowledge, both horizontally across the grade level and vertically between the grades, so that students are accumulating this broad and deep knowledge with all of that vocabulary that they've gained across those years.
Sanctuary!
I think that the topics are so high interest that the students are willing to kind of dive in any silly way that we want. And today was all about how volcanoes kind of erupt. And it's up to us to make it real fun and exciting, like reading as an active volcano.
Sean, let's hear it.
In a previous model of instruction, every kiddo might have been reading a different book, which made it really hard to have shared conversation and shared learning. Now we're all learning about ancient Greece. We're all studying geology, and as a result, the classroom discussions are so much more rich because we have that shared learning community.
Having the shared texts that we're all reading together, in 2nd grade it's all a read aloud, so there aren't any texts that they're specifically reading on their own. It is creating shared experiences that they're able to talk about out at recess or out with their parents. And it's also been a really great jumping off point for texts that they're reading during independent reading time, because we'll put out different myths or Greek books, and they're gravitating towards them because they already have a lot of background knowledge.
There is a digital component of CKLA through Clever where the text can be read to them, which allows them to access the text if they're still learning to read. And that has been a lifesaver for me, the ability for them to read it through the iPad and not just me reading it individually to each student.
Tier 1 instruction means instruction for all. It means that all children in Arlington receive access to high-quality, grade-level material, and that access is scaffolded based on the learner's need, whether that be for additional support for a language learner or a special education student, or for enrichment and extension for our gifted kiddos.
I use a co-teaching model because there are students with special needs in my class. The CKLA program has been helping them to have like a lot of background knowledge and be able to speak with our other classmates. Recycle through the content very intentionally to help make sure that they're retaining information, and it helps them to be able to participate in the classroom conversations to the point where I'm sure you wouldn't notice who is who within the room.
Our new model of instruction is different from the old way of doing things, which was much more isolated skills, find the main idea, sequence the events, and every day in a different story. Now we spend several weeks studying, gaining that broad and deep knowledge of a topic, and that's really what is key to comprehension. And we see it in the vocabulary that our students are using, we see it in the details in their writing and in the high-level texts that they're accessing, that this model of instruction benefits all students.